Well, when movers and shakers come to Detroit, they stop right here to Studio 1452. I'm digital anchor Andre Ash with the Michigan Chronicle, and joining us is the newly elected mayor of Atlanta, or ATL is what they call it, the Honorable Mayor Andre Dickens. It's good to have you join us.
Yeah, good to be here with you too, and I like your name.
I like yours too, right away. Also joining us to be a part of this conversation is my colleague A.R. Shaw, the contributing writer and multimedia journalist for our sister media outlet, Atlanta Daily World.
Great to join you guys live from Atlanta, Little 5 Points.
Yeah, Little 5 Points is a great area, eclectic area, so I like it that you're there.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you're here in Detroit. Now, recently you attended a fundraiser in Detroit by business people, and what people probably don't know is that there's a deep business connection between Detroit and Atlanta, and we know that, look, Atlanta represents Black political power, commerce, and essentially ATL is the economic power for Black America, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you've been touring Detroit and other cities across the country to find out best practices. What have you learned?
Yeah, so first, Detroit has been hospitable to me over the last day. I came in, had a great fundraiser with the business community here, mostly African-American business owners. We have a business relationship, but we also have personal relationships between Detroit and Atlanta. If you think about the great migration going north, coming from the South, a lot of Southerners from Atlanta, Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, and Louisiana went north to Chicago and Detroit to get these great, automotive industry jobs. And so, we have a fantastic relationship as it relates to everybody has a cousin, an auntie, a grandparent, or somebody in Atlanta or in Detroit due to the HBCUs in Atlanta. So I come up here and I have great friends that are in, logistics or airport work or, construction or in media and those things. So
when you came here, I'm sure you were like, what up, though?
You know what? That was the first thing that they said. It was like, what up, though? That's the word. That's what y'all say in the D.
That's what we say in the D.
And then I was like, hey, I know y'all started that thing, Detroit versus everybody.
Yeah,
I was like, well, look, don't be against me today. Not versus Atlanta. We together, you know?
I love it. So in studying and trying to learn about best practices, one of the facilities you were able to tour to look at was, I believe, the command center for one of the Bedrock properties owned by businessman Dan Gilbert here in Detroit. What did you learn and what do you hope to take back to Atlanta?
Yeah, this video center where they were able to see on screens thousands of cameras of people being able to be inside of buildings or outside of buildings in parking lots for public safety reasons. That's a good thing. Women feel safer walking at night, and also if an incident does happen, you kind of have a good access to be able to catch the person that's doing the crime and be able to have a good ID on them so that you can prevent crime down the road. It makes business people want to invest more so that they know that they're going to have a downtown area or other areas that are carefully being monitored. I've watched it, and then there's some big brother mechanisms that you have to make sure of to try to make sure that we don't invade people's privacy, but you also want to make sure that you can have a lens out to just make sure that everything is going well. So I'll take that back to Atlanta. We do have a video integration system in Atlanta, but I like this Bedrock version as well because it's private. This is the business community paying for it and monitoring it. You got this big wealthy guy, Dan Gilbert here with Quicken and Rocket Mortgage. So, he's putting his money to work for public and private good.
So to that point, best practices, so you're talking about public safety, and I think in a lot of urban communities, crime is a big issue, and it seems to be that way in Atlanta. And on that issue of crime, I'll let AR take it from here.
So great to speak with you today, Mr. Dickens. And, I'm an Atlanta native, and we saw over the pandemic that crime increased. And, for me being an Atlanta native, I saw that a lot of people from other cities were coming to Atlanta and partying because we were like the only city that was open during the pandemic. So we saw an increase in crime. Recently, we have to talk about what's happening. Atlanta is in the national news due to artists being arrested. I want to talk about, what are we doing as a city to make sure that this city is safe? I know that you have several programs. Of course, you're doing the midnight basketball or the night basketball league. What are some other initiatives that you're looking at to keep Atlanta safe?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for that. So you're right. During the pandemic, the state of Georgia decided to make sure that we were open. The state of Georgia said bars, restaurants, movie theaters, bowling alleys, places could stay open when the city, actually I was on city council and Mayor Bottoms was mayor, we were saying, hey, we need to close some of these places down so we can stop the spread of COVID. Well, the state, being the state leadership, they said they overrode our local policies and said open up. Well, what that then did was say to people that were in other cities, they were like, hey, we know where we're going to go. We're going to go kick it in Atlanta. So we were entertaining a lot of people from other places. And so what was happening was Atlanta's open because Georgia's open. And these folks don't know each other. So guys getting from Chicago are getting into it with guys from St. Louis at this bar or at this strip club because they don't know the rules of engagement. When you're in one city, when you're Atlanta guys, you know, okay, those guys over there, I know what they're up to. I know who they are. Y'all over here, we're over there. Well, when you had clashes of various crews happening, shootouts were taking place and violence was ensuing, and a lot of the victims and assailants were from other cities, as you mentioned. Now that's come down a little bit, so we've reduced some of that crime by more means of enforcement. But what I did was I put in place a nightlife division of the city of Atlanta. We never had that before. And so we have a nightlife manager. And what we're doing is, nightlife is a vital part of our economy. We have a lot of conventions, have a lot of sports, and we have a lot of locals that want to kick it and have a good time. But we got to have rules of engagement so that people come home safe at the end of the night. And so what we've done is we put in safety precautions. Every restaurant, bar, lounge, club has to have a security plan. They also have to have a part of that security plan are security individual, a security team, whether it be part-time Atlanta Police Department or security guards, et cetera, but they have to be trained. They also are trained in de-escalation tactics. Guys get into an argument at a bar, you don't put them both out because they're going to fight in the parking lot or on the street. And so we have the aggressor stay and the non-aggressor leave. So anyway, we have a lot of programs in place. The other thing I'll say is I'm going to hire 3,000 youth this summer. My summer jobs program is to make sure that 3,000 youth are paid $12 to $16 an hour to be able to work around the city, either in government or in the private sector. Mm-hmm. And, the other stuff is just blocking and tackling of the police force to make sure that we bring crime down. And it's unfortunate that we do have a gang problem. And some of those folks are individuals that are musicians. And so our DA went out and she got some RICO charges against some rappers that happen to be involved in gang activity.
You know what? And I think when people think about Atlanta, it's like the mecca of the hip hop community, entertainment. Mm-hmm. And so how do you try to instill the stabilization of that culture while also keeping the city economically viable and safe as well? Because I know you have a connection with the hip hop community, and so they look up to you. And how do you try to balance all of that?
Yeah, it's very good to make sure that you have a balance because hip hop does not have to mean violence. Mm. If we make sure that hip hop means entertainment, it means culture, it means it can mean political influence, it can be social justice, but it does not need to equate to violence. Once hip hop and other media forms of media have equated themselves to violence and gang activity and negligence or destruction, that's when we have to look at ourselves and say we need to course correct that. So I'm very big with making sure that we have a thriving hip hop community. I mean, Atlanta music scene has influenced the nation. It used to be New York or LA, but now Atlanta has all the producers, all the hits come out of Atlanta for the last, 15 to 20 years. I'm an Outkast acolyte, and then everybody falls under those guys all the way to Future, down to, you know, Lil Baby and everybody else.
Yeah.
But you know, we also are the capital for film and entertainment. We are #1 in film and entertainment in the nation. People think about LA, you think about New York. Well, Atlanta came and snatched that from them about 7 or 8 years ago with the 30% tax credits that we offer, and a huge movie, TV industry, along with hip hop and R&B and country. All of that occurs in Atlanta, and we want it to continue to thrive, and we want to make sure that we export our culture and get some value out of it. But we do not need to have crime be the byproduct or the unintended consequence of that.
Well, you know, speaking of entertainment and music, you all have an artist who went viral recently. And maybe you know what I'm talking about.
I know where you're going.
Where she said all these other different cities outside of Atlanta ain't Atlanta.
Yeah. Amaretta. Amaretta is her name. She said, that's not Atlanta. That's not Atlanta. So she's really being hyper localized, man, and I love it. But she's like Smyrna, you know, all these other cities that are outside of Atlanta. They're part of the metro Atlanta area. Yeah. So if you're in California and you say where you live, everybody says, "I live in Atlanta," right. But they really live somewhere like Douglasville.
We do the same thing here in Detroit.
Yeah. You got Southfield and you know, all those places up there. It's still they say it's the D, but it's really like, you know, a suburb.
I'll let AR take this one because you've been here in Detroit and learning best practices, and you know, what are you seeing in Atlanta that are similar to other issues in the Black community? And I know AR will take it from here about the issue of housing, the high cost of that, and affordable housing. We're seeing that issue here in Detroit as well, but AR thinks we'll dive more into that issue.
Yeah, definitely. I think over the pandemic, we also saw an increase in housing costs. What was happening in Atlanta, and what I saw being an Atlanta native, is that we had a lot of corporations coming up and buying houses. And they were like selling them for, you know, 3 times the value of what the original price was, pretty much driving up the value in different communities. Just your thoughts on that, as far as, you know, companies coming in, buying up, you know, multitude of houses in the Atlanta area, charging high rents, and creating a pretty much a conundrum for the citizens of Atlanta when it comes to affordable housing. What is your plan to kind of defeat what's happening and counter what is going on with the high cost of living these days in the city?
Yeah, you're right. So the cost of housing has increased by more than 65% between 2010 and now. So essentially, if you were paying $1,000 for rent, you're now paying $1,650 or more in that short amount of time. The challenge is people's incomes haven't increased by 65%. So if you know, working class folks, their income may have increased by 5 to 10 to 20% maybe in that time period. So at some point, if your housing costs are doing this and your income is only doing this, you're cost burden, and more people are becoming cost burden who were able to hold on back in 2008 or 2010. Now they're challenged, especially with the pandemic pricing that has occurred. The cost of materials have skyrocketed. The cost of labor has increased. So what you now have is a housing shortage because productivity has slowed down. So you can't, you know, we don't have a lot of new housing stock in Atlanta or in other places because, you know, it's just difficult to, you know, supply chain issues, et cetera. So what we're dealing with is the need to, one, stop predatory investing. Atlanta, over the pandemic, 30 to 40% of the housing stock that was purchased by investors, by people that don't plan to live in the house. All they're doing is flipping it and increasing the value. So that makes it a burden on the people that live in the community. So I'm going to build or preserve 20,000 units of affordable housing over the next 8 years, being very aggressive by making sure that all public land that we have, we're going to build on that, build vertical apartments, townhomes, et cetera. We're also putting in place things to help people income go up. Because we're not going to build our way out of this problem exclusively. We have to increase incomes. So workforce development, getting people quality jobs in technology and nursing and transportation, logistics, trucking, all these jobs that'll pay you $60, $70, $80, $100,000. Then you can afford the housing of choice. And I think that's where we're going to go. Affordable housing, the affordable part is about income.
I wish we had more time, but it was Great to have this insightful conversation with you, and we got to do it again.
Yeah, we got to do it again. I'll be coming back to the D, but of course I'll be with our great affiliates down in Atlanta that you guys have. I'll be working with them, AR and the team. So I'm excited, man, and glad to be mayor of Atlanta and glad to be working with people like you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Andre. And AR Shaw, our colleague from Atlanta Daily World. Absolutely. The newly elected mayor of Atlanta, the Honorable Andre Dickens. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you all.